In this video, I'm going to tell you about a recent experience I've had with Sony support, which has left me so disappointed I will never buy another RX camera, another ZV camera, or any other Sony camera. Firstly, let me explain why I'm actually creating this video. After all, everyone gets bad customer service every now and again. It hardly seems worth creating a video about it. However, it relates to the Sony ZV-1, a camera which I've owned for about a year now, and I did a very positive video review for last year. But because I did that video review and it was positive, and now I've had a negative experience, it has changed the way I look at this camera and whether I'd recommend anyone buys it or not. So I feel I have a duty to share my negative customer service experience, because certainly from my point of view anyway, buying decision is not just about technical specs of a camera, it's also about the customer service that supports that buying decision. It's probably worth pointing out that I do have a long history of actually buying Sony cameras. I've bought many point and shoot cameras from them. This is my RX 100 Mark IV, still going strong actually. Well, I mean, it's had quite a hard life, it's battered and a bit bruised, but it still mostly works. So it's not as if I was ever against buying Sony cameras. Also, if you happen to own a Sony camera and you've only had a positive experience both from its use and from their customer service, this video is in no way supposed to diminish that experience. After all, I'm quite sure the companies I've maybe had really positive experience from, you've perhaps had negative experience from. So this video is really just about my personal experience with customer support from Sony. So my issue relates to the internal mic on this ZV-1. What I'd started to notice was that there was an increasing amount of white noise being recorded from the internal mic, up to the point where, the audio in the video clip became unusable. Now, I know it had become a problem because I went back and I checked some of my older video clips and found that the audio was perfectly fine. Now, of course, you may be asking the question, Julian, you do a lot of YouTube videos, why are you using the internal mic? Well, actually, for my YouTube videos, I don't use the internal mic. I obviously use external mics like this one that I've got here, but I also use this camera a lot for going out with the family and taking pictures and taking video clips. And obviously I don't want to take out a mic system when I'm just out for a walk with the family, so that's why I use the internal mic quite a lot. Let me show you an example of the problem. Before I contacted Sony support, I obviously did a lot of testing. I tried setting the mic level to different settings, including automatic. I did a full factory reset. I made sure that the camera had the latest firmware, all the normal stuff that you should be checking before you contact support. Now, I've been creating YouTube videos for 5 years now, so I've got a reasonable amount of experience with this type of thing, and I was pretty certain I had a problem. So I emailed Sony support, I gave them all the details, clearly explained what the issue is, and I also sent them a YouTube video which clearly demonstrated the problem. To Sony's credit, they came back to me pretty promptly and said, please send the camera in. So I packaged it all up, sent it off, but then oddly it came back almost immediately with a note in it saying, no fault found. So I phoned up Sony support and I expressed my concern that the camera had come back almost immediately with no fault found. The agent was very helpful, and as I expressed my concern, they seemed very keen on getting the problem sorted, but they suggested it was perhaps a software issue and that it would pass it on to that team. Now, this seemed a little bit odd to me that, when the camera goes away and it's been inspected, that these kind of checks weren't being done at the same time. So obviously they have separate hardware teams somewhere else and separate software team in another place that doesn't seem to be very joined up, and that was kind of the first red flag for me. But they seemed very positive in trying to help me fix my problem. But unfortunately, a couple of days later, I got an email back saying no fault found. No matter how much evidence I provided to indicate and demonstrate that it was a problem, it was always rejected, and I was always told there was no fault found. They suggested, for example, that I was suffering from electromagnetic interference. But then when I recorded audio samples from a variety of other different cameras that I happen to own, they rejected those and saying, well, there can't be a fair comparison, or different mics have different characteristics. I even provided an audio sample from my Sony RX 100 Mark IV, and they rejected that as well. As the back and forth with the emails went on, I was actually getting quite curious about what tests had been performed. So I asked to see the engineers' reports, both for the hardware tests and what tests have been done from a software point of view. Now, while they didn't come back and say no, they never actually came back to me with any information. They just said, no fault found. To cut a long story short, I was left with two conclusions. Either A, there is a fault, but Sony are not able to properly diagnose and solve the issue, or B, there is no issue, and this is indeed the normal working characteristics of the internal mic. Let's look at the first possibility. That is, Sony don't understand the issue. Well, then this shows a lack of knowledge and understanding of the product that they're supporting. Now, while I appreciate the Sony ZV-1 is probably somewhere in the consumer side market of things, it's not one of Sony's most expensive cameras. But that's a pretty poor excuse. If the consumer team can't solve issues related to audio video, or particularly around audio, and this camera is targeted at vlogging, then that's fine, but then you also need to have the capability of passing that issue onto another team who have different expertise in the audio video area. The second option is that the mic is indeed working properly. Now, personally, I really don't buy this option because I've got a bunch of evidence that shows that compared to other cameras, the audio quality is really poor, and that the mic on the camera used to work and never used to get this problem. But that aside, say it is working normally. Then my opinion is that camera mic is not fit for purpose. The internal mic should be able to work in a variety of different locations, a variety of different environments without having excessive white noise. So this is a camera designed for vlogging. They make a big deal about the internal mic and about how good it is, but clearly it can't work in a wide variety of scenarios. So I can only draw the opinion that it's just really not fit for purpose. The other thing I will add though, the old Sony RX100 Mark IV records much better audio from its tiny little mic in there, and that camera is several years older. Neither option provides me with that warm, fuzzy feeling. Either the internal mic is rubbish or Sony camera support is rubbish. It certainly wouldn't encourage me to buy any one of their cameras from the Alpha range, and whatever they replace the ZV-1 with a newer model, I certainly wouldn't consider that either. I don't want to make this video to have a whinge and to make for a dramatic thumbnail. I really did love this Sony ZV-1. It's a great camera on paper. It's helped me create some fantastic videos, but it does supposed to serve me two purposes. I bought it for two purposes, not only just to create YouTube videos, but to use it as my point and shoot camera for those family events and to be able to record audio, video and pictures. When I'm out about with the family, the camera needs to be portable. I haven't got room or space or the faff to deal with external mics, and I certainly don't have the time to spend a lot of time cleaning up white noisy audio. If I hadn't produced a positive review for the Sony ZV-1, I would never have felt the need to create this video, but I would hate for someone to come across my video, base a buying decision on that and then experience the same issue as me. Hence the reason I felt that I needed to share my experience, again, either whether it's with the folks at customer Sony support or there is indeed a design issue with that internal mic. Now, I expect many of you out there who have Sony cameras have perhaps gone through Sony support. I've had a more positive experience than I have. But for me, the whole experience has left a really bad taste in my mouth. It feels very disjointed, like I said, with the separate software teams and hardware teams. When I call up with a problem with my camera, I don't care that it's separate software teams and hardware teams. I just want one person to take the issue seriously and understand it as well. It's really important. The Sony seem to lack a great deal of understanding in the complexity of this particular issue. So I want my manufacturer to understand the product that they're supporting. So it is unfortunate because, like I said, I've had a long-standing history of buying Sony cameras, but I can't see myself ever buying another Sony camera again. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, but I'm going to go and do something a lot more interesting than this, and that's go out and take some landscape photographs.